Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Fafano at Africa. And before we went on the break, we looked at the rising cases of gun violence in South Africa. Now we'll be coming down to Nigeria, where we'll be taking a look at the inflation situation in the country. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria's food inflation has reached an unprecedented level, with staple food prices surging by more than 30% over the past year. Now, this sharp rise is fueled by various factors, including the depreciation of the Naira, the high cost of agricultural inputs, and disruptions in both global and local supply chains. Now, farmers across the country are struggling with increased costs of seeds, fertilizers, and fuel, all of which significantly reduce their profit margins. Meanwhile, consumers are facing severe difficulties in affording basic food items, and with many households forced to cut back on both quantity and quality of their meals. Now, the food inflation crisis is not only driving hunger and malnutrition, but also deepening poverty, as rising prices disproportionately impact lower income earners. That said, joining us to discuss this is our guest, Bamidele Ayemibo, lead consultant, 3T Impex Consulting, Lagos. Thank you so much, Bamidele, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. All right, Bamidele, we can see the deteriorating economic situation in Nigeria. So I'm just basically going to start off by asking, what are the key factors driving the sharp rising food inflation across Nigeria?
One of them is insecurity. Insecurity, a major challenge. A number of farmers have had to leave their farms. I'm an exporter and I export commodities. So I export finished goods, processed food. And one of my suppliers was talking to me about the fact that the supplier of the raw material have to pay bandit to be able to access their farms. So in some cases, they don't even are not able to access. In fact, in some cases, they have it for the bandit. And of course, they would preserve their life first before the farm. So a number of people have had to actually abandon farms. But the good thing is that it's not in all the part of the country. So we say about other part of the country that will probably have to increase production in those areas. Another major challenge is, a number of our products, particularly value-added products, have their raw material imported into Nigeria. So we can say we have largely imported inflation. Imported inflation in the sense that the item being imported, the raw material being imported, like wheat, for example, are imported at a very high rate because of exchange rate. So the foreign exchange challenge is a big challenge that is affecting value of the imported item, and that is used to manufacture different goods and food items, particularly flour-based products, from pasta to noodles to different kind of cereals and the like. And all these are impacting seriously on the level of inflation, coupled with the fact that we have high transportation costs. Which was why there was so much pressure on the government on the issue of subsidy, that look, rather than transfer the inefficiency of government for Nigeria to be punished for it, transfer the inefficiency and the punishment of inefficiency to the citizen, because some people are moving the food to the neighboring countries, and it's like we are subsidizing our neighbors. Why don't we ensure that never happens? Why don't we track this truck? Why don't we ensure any dealer that have his truck crossing the border, because all of them now have a tracker, are severely punished, rather than transferring this punishment to Nigeria, so that we can, to a large extent, minimize the issue we are currently having in Nigeria, and I mean the issue of pricing. So if you can solve that, maybe that will have cushioned the effect. So from transport costs to exchange rate issues to insecurity and even desert encroachment, all these are contributing to a high level of inflation, particularly food inflation, which is a major contributor to inflation we have in the country.
Right. And you mentioned the currency devaluation, right? And basically on the streets, a lot of people will be asking, how does the Naira to the dollar affect the price of food? Especially some of the food that we believe should be homegrown. So I want to ask you on...
it has...
Go ahead.
Sorry to... Can finish it? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Now, it has effect on it. So let's take maize, for example. For you to grow maize, some of the seedlings are imported, the pesticides are imported, the diesel to drive the farm and planting the tractor are imported, the fertilizers are imported. Now they're going to produce fertilizer that will probably reduce the impact. So a number of the inputs for the farming are imported. So even though some of these things are grown at home, but even the cost, how about moving the goods from the farm down to the market? You have to drive it with diesel and PMS that are imported. So the effect is affecting everything, even for product produced locally, because some of these products have inputs that are affected by imported items.
Right. Okay. So there's another factor that we have to consider, and that's the factor of climate change. So what impact has climate change had on food production and food supply in Nigeria?
You know, this climate change issue has been on for a long time. We just have not, just like any other part of our national life as a country, we've not really taken it serious. And that's why we're having the serious issue now. There's this story about a commissioner of Agric in Castina. At some point, I think this was just either before the Yaradua administration, or I think it was before that administration, one of the governors, they realized that, okay, look, most of the time, Ministry of Agri, we want to support farmers, we bring in fertilizers, distribute fertilizers. It seems as if that's where a lot of people can make money for themselves. This particular commissioner decided to engage a consultant to do a study, ask questions from the farmer. What exactly do you want the government to do for you? And they said, look, our problem is not fertilizer. Our problem is desert encroachment. Desert encroachment. So it's a big challenge that we have not really looked at, which is now being a major challenge for us. And it's very important we begin to do something serious about it, particularly in the area of reforestation, and as much as possible to support all these farmers in those areas who now do not have high yield, and in some cases they can't even use the land again. They have to now move to other location because of the impact of desert encroachment, because of course climate change impact in the world.
Okay, I'm also going to ask, how has the disruption of the global supply chain contributed to food price hikes in Nigeria?
Oh yes, because Ukraine is a major producer of some commodities, which of course have severely affected Nigeria. We also had impact of COVID when COVID happened, and the attendant impact, because of course countries that have access to, for example, I remember very well when immediately after COVID, countries that have the vessel or have the relation to be able to ensure that they're giving advantage, most of these vessels prefer going to those regions because they are even willing to pay more to be able to get this product to themselves. And considering what is also happening in the world, a number of countries also are reducing the level of exportation, because if they are not having high yield because of the impact of climate change, they don't also want to sell everything so that they themselves will not have enough to be able to use in their country. So disruption, the challenge in the global economy and the supply chain is really having a major impact. But I think the major impact for us in Nigeria, FX is contributing significantly to it. In fact, I think it's affecting almost every area because of the overdependence on imported items in our country.
Now let's talk about the security of the farmers, especially in the north, or the lack of it in Nigeria. I know that also plays a pivotal role in the hike in prices of food, because we've had a lot of insecurity issues in the north. We've had a lot of banditry, we've had attacks from left, right, and center, and then farmers are losing their lives, not just their products now, they're losing their lives. Families are being displaced, especially in the north. And we know that that's where most of our food comes from, especially the cheaper ones. So can you weigh in on that, on the effect of insecurity especially on the part of the farmers, and how it has affected the prices of food?
Like I said earlier, it's a major challenge actually, because the bandits in the bush also need to eat, they need to survive, and they rely on some of these farmers to be able to get, like I said earlier, there are cases where they have to be the one to harvest. In some cases, they pay taxes. In some cases, they harvest the bandits' own first and then have the rest to themselves. all this affecting them, and some cases, some because of their life would rather not go there because in some cases they even end up kidnapping them. So I think solving the problem of insecurity should be a priority for the government. I know government is doing a number of things. The Ministry of the Nigerian Army, I've had a lot of news talking about how much bandits have been killed and a number of them being decimated, which is commendable. But I think a lot still have to be done, particularly in those areas. I mean, large farm areas that are really currently under threat, and many are not able to go to farm because of this issue. Probably giving them some permanent security that will be able to help in that area, not just taking care of the bandits, also ensuring that they don't regroup and come back to be able to prevent the group from farming, because we've not even utilized majority of our arable land. I mean, we still have more than 40-50% of our arable land unutilized, and even though we don't have the arable land being utilized, in fact, we have a lot of post-harvest losses. We have most of our farmers being peasant, and we have not utilized of our arable land. Now we are now having insecurity on top of these challenges that is not even making us to maximize the land we currently have. So I think it's a major, major area the government really needs to do something about.
Right. Okay. In your own opinion, what government policies can be implemented to mitigate the rising cost of food?
And that's a very important question, because I think the policy issue of the government is where the issue is. I think, because I saw a video earlier this year of someone, an expert in the field in agri, warning that we are going to have to deal with this year. And it's already talking again for next year. So it's like we wait for the issue to come, and then we now begin to run and start scatter. Look, the issue we are facing right now, if we don't want it to happen next year, this is the time to begin to do something about it. Number one is the fact that we definitely need to support increased production of agri. You know, if there's one thing the Europeans and Americans are known for, is not joking with their farmers. In fact, they don't just support the growing of the farm, they also ensure they secure market for these farmers to be able to ensure, particularly for those exporting the item. So it's extremely important that we support the farmers. For example, we have NISA. NISA is supposed to de-risk the agri venture, and they did a lot in that space. But what I've not noticed is the support of the presidency for NISA to be able to grow its capacity, because I was engaging them recently and I was asking questions for the staff that, look, you guys have a fantastic product to be able to support and grow volume of agri in Nigeria. But many people don't know you exist, and they said, look, we can't do a lot of to be able to get a lot of people in, because we also have limited resources. So an organization like NISA, who is ready to guarantee a farmer to ensure that they get a loan from a bank and also pay back part of their interest, to encourage them to be able to take the loan and pay back and increase their volume, must be supported. So supporting with necessary funding to be able to issue more guarantees and be able to ensure that they increase the capacity of the farmers is something I think needs to be taken very, very, very seriously. And considering the fact that a number of the manufacturers in Nigeria have their raw materials sourced locally and now at a higher rate, can we begin to support manufacture of those raw materials to be able to produce cheaper by getting seedlings at a cheaper rate, working with Dangote to get fertilizer at a very good rate, and at the same time raising funds from banks to be able to increase the volume, because it's law of demand and supply. If the supply is high, the price will definitely come down.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask this last question because of our time. Now, we understand that when it comes to the urban and rural areas, as much as it's affecting everybody, it feels like there's no level playing field. The rural areas are definitely having it worse. So how can we at least evenly distribute these resources that we have, those sparsely distributed amongst the urban areas, but we understand that the rural areas are also having it worse. So how can we reach these areas that are also affected by the prices of food and do not even have enough income to sustain themselves?
No, it's what the government is already doing. What I'm not sure is how much is percolating down to get to the grassroots. I'm talking about relief program, distribution of food to vulnerable population to mitigate the immediate impact of the rising food price. That is, I know the government has done a lot in that. We've had a lot of news. What I'm not sure is if it's getting to the people who really need it. So the government recently said, look, we have to do some importation of some of these products to increase the volume coming into the country, which is a problem on its own. But I mean, at this point, it seems to be a quick win to be able to get the food in and be able to ensure it gets to the people. I think when government is doing this program, to have, I used to be a banker, and I know we have this mystery shopper who will go around sometimes to act as customers to be able to be sure the program or the policy or the service of the bank are well carried out and the customer is getting the best of service, and record all those activities and get back to the management, and the management can take action on those that are sabotaging the process. I think it would be good for government not just release the relief material, but also send this kind of people out there to confirm that this product, this food item are getting to the grassroots, and that the people are feeling the impact of the government and the necessary support to reduce the effect of inflation on them.
All right. That said, I want to say a big thank you to you, Bamidele Ayemibo, lead consultant, 3T Impex Consulting, Lagos. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And of course, those very important points that you raised. And we hope that the government would follow up on that as well. And we hope that they're watching. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me, and bye-bye.